Welcome to Focus on B, the video series where I spend 20 or so minutes playing and talking about a game that I've got some thoughts on, and this is How to Murder YouTube's Compression Algorithm 101. Actually, no. This game is called Geometry Wars. You may or may not have played it. Actually, you probably have, because despite the fact that Bizarre Creations are no longer around, something that they made, one of their Bizarre Creations, was in fact... I need to fucking turn this down. Was in fact this game. It actually did not start life as a standalone release. However, you probably are aware of this if you were around in the 2000s. I had no idea. I didn't own a fucking Xbox. But basically, there was a once upon a time there was a little thing called the Sega Dreamcast. It was like the best thing ever. And then on that thing, the Bizarre Creations, I'm not sure if that's what to recall at that point, but they made this game called Metropolitan Street Racer, and it was really cool. And then when the Dreamcast was like, you know what, fuck you guys, I'm just the best. I'm gonna stop receiving mainstream releases until the late, well, not even like mainstream, but I'm gonna stop receiving like real releases until like the late 2000s with the homebrew scene. Fuck me, I suck at this game. And so they went over to Xbox, and so Project Gotham Racing became a thing, right? And in that series, they snuck in, I think it was the first, or was it the... It might have been the second game. I think it was Gotham Racing 2 that featured a little minigame during... I don't even know if it was during the loading screens or just... No, it could not have been during the loading screens because didn't Namco own the patent for like way too long for that, and they didn't let anyone do it for a long time? Or maybe the patent just... I have no idea. I should have researched that beforehand. But anyway, basically, in one way or another, you could play this little game here, and it was just called Geometry Wars, I believe. And so, you know, while they were making the sequel and everything, you know, Project Gotham Racing 3, Project Gotham Racing 4, and then Blur, and then whatever, yeah. So, as they were doing that, they just thought, fuck it, let's make an actual full release of this game. And so they did, and this is Geometry Wars Retro Evolved. The first one, I'm not sure what game we're up to now. I know there's one on the PS4. Maybe there's been more since. I imagine this series was a little more successful than Project Gotham Racing, just because it's more unique. Right? It doesn't have... Actually, I imagine it would have kind of a mass appeal because of how simple it is. And I do love it when games that dub themselves retro go even further than just... Because, you know, when you think retro gaming, you think like fucking... Well, depending on your age, some people might say Xbox 360. I would say, fuck you, that is not retro. Please, don't say it. Don't say it. My hair... I don't want my hair to fall out. Anyway, no, but... You know, the stereotypical retro thing is like the NES, right? Or the Game Boy, or even a Super Nintendo. This game's like, fuck it, nah, we're doing Vectrex. This is like Vectrex, but on crack, and that's just Vectrex because any fellow Classic Game Room re-watcher, because he hasn't posted in a long time. Actually, yeah, no, as of the upload of this video, he probably will not have posted in a very, very long time once more. He kind of came back for a bit, and then he left again. Mark, come on, there's a new fucking Tokyo Extreme Racer now. I know you love that shit. I know you love that game with its really bad handling. I haven't played the new Tokyo Extreme Racer, by the way. Maybe I should, I don't know. But anyway, that's gonna be real awkward when my fucking Focus on B comes out, and it's like, everyone's gonna be telling me, like, there's a new one, and it's like, yeah, I didn't know. I recorded that months before it came out. But anyway, doesn't matter. So where was I? Yeah, so this game is clearly stylized more after, like, really early arcade games and the Vectrex and stuff. It's not just... Well, it's a single-screen type game, as you can see. It doesn't really change past that. And it kind of feels a bit like an early version of... Okay, so you know how when you're a certain age, a particular kind of game appeals to you? Well, when I was a kid, for whatever fucking reason... My favorite kind of game was, of course, the 2D and 3D platformer and the racing games. But, like... My second favorite thing ever was glowing neon lights. Like when I got my first like real modern phone, the first thing I put on it was like one of those apps that lets you like draw neon lights and shit. And at the time I thought it was like amazing. I didn't realize that it's literally just the outer glow in Photoshop. But back then I was obsessed with that. And obviously I was obsessed with Beat Hazard. In fact, if you go back to my freaking early days on my channel, you'll see me playing through some stuff on Beat Hazard, getting copyright strikes aplenty. But anyway, was not aware of that at the time. And so I imagine that if I had actually discovered this game back then, and somehow figured out how to play it, despite the fact that I didn't own an Xbox 360, was this ever on PC? I'm not sure. I'm actually playing the 360 version on Xenia right now because I want to play like as originally as possible, even though it's actually less authentic, if that makes sense. But hey, you know what? The controls are actually not too bad, though. I'm just using my keyboard, obviously, although you do kind of run into some NKRO issues. But regardless, I probably would have thought this was the coolest thing ever, because look at all the neon lights, look at the way it ripples, and this art direction is actually held up. This is totally timeless. Like, you could not tell this game is 20 years old at this point. And yes, 2005 was over 20 years ago. Was exactly 20 years ago. Anyway, and so I just wanted to talk about something else that this game represents, and it's, you know, the concept of a smaller game within something bigger turned full release. So, for example, I guess the most popular version of that would have to be Treasure... What was it? Not Treasure. Fucking Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker. Because what happened was, as we all know, boys and girls, it's like you had freaking Super Mario World on the 3DS. What? What am I talking about? It was Super Mario 3D World on the Nintendo Wii U. I completely forgot about that. Just kidding. I actually kind of still like the Wii U a little bit. But anyway. And in that game, there was like a little mini game that you could play with Captain Toad. And it was like, you know, he was on like a block and you had to move him around and he couldn't jump. And so they just turned that into a full game because I guess a lot of people liked that. Nintendo listening to an audience, I never thought that would even be possible. We're going to keep playing the Evolve mode for a little longer, then we'll switch over to the Retro mode to showcase that. Except, well, by retro, they don't really mean retro, but still, whatever. And so it really does surprise me that, well, I'm not sure if it should be surprising that it's not more common. It's more so the fact that you want developers to like focus entirely on one game. And the reason why we don't really have that kind of stuff that much anymore, other than compilations, of course, is just because, well, they're already spending all of their resources on making the main game look as pretty and as possible and all those features and stuff, and except with less content for some reason. It depends really on the game. So how the fuck are they gonna get enough manpower to just make the tiny? Like, yeah, sure. This kind of game, as someone with about like 2 weeks worth of game development experience, I can make this. Not with the pretty visual effects. Oh, that would take a whole fucking... I don't even know. I would have to like figure out a different engine to get them to render this way. But like the fundamentals of the gameplay, absolutely. Okay, maybe not the enemy spawning. I have no idea how to do that timed this way, because you can clearly tell they spawn in like waves and they check whether or not they're dead. And you know what I really like about this game, actually? Talk about the actual game. Something I noticed is that every single enemy has a different design, and that design corresponds to behavior. So you notice how the pink guys, they kind of split into pieces. The blue dudes are just generic, just shoot them. And the green guys run away from you, right? And then there's these, well, I'm going to show you what they look like when we get to them. I think you might have already seen them at this point. I'm not sure, though, because I can't tell what's going on. These are the kind of games that it's like, it's really all about the visual spectacle. It really is impressive just how much we forgive when we're just looking at pretty colors. Because really, I don't know if I'm actually any good at this game, but well, clearly I'm not. I really should be using the bombs more. So basically, that thing you see on top, that's your ship, right? That's how many ships you have, because you gotta have limited lives, of course. But you also have, I believe, if I hit the button, there you go, that's the right button for it. I set it to the bumpers, so quote-unquote bumpers, you know, but yeah, so basically they clear the screen. I probably shouldn't have wasted that one. There they are, the neon sperm. We gotta have an enemy like that, and they have their little stinking pattern. Dude, look at the ripple when you shoot, and it like just makes the whole thing distort. And I don't know if this will ever get old. I mean, it probably will. I don't play a lot of these kind of games. It's interesting because I do really enjoy the arcade sort of setup of a lot of games, when it's just pick up and play, not a lot of progression, but at the same time, I don't find myself too drawn to a lot of single screen based, okay, this is what you're doing, and this is the only thing you're doing, and that's it. Just gonna keep getting harder and harder, and there's no really, I don't want to say that, oh, I want things to unlock. I want a sense of progression. Because when you do give me a sense of progression, sometimes I fucking hate it. That's why I've never really been the biggest fan of Gran Turismo, because I'm sorry, but I don't want to complete like 50 license tests. And maybe I went a little bit insane with that freaking GT on the Wii. What was it called? GT Pro Series? I don't know. That game's still okay, I think. No, Gran Turismo is better, obviously, but whatever. The point is, though, that it's interesting that this is it kind of feels like it's supposed to appeal to me, but it really doesn't that much. Like, I can't see myself playing this Oh my god, look at the way the bullets split. That's so cool. I'm guessing everything is physics-based, so... And, you know, okay, I was about to say, keep in mind, they got this running on a CPU from 2005. Well, I mean... Well, for one, it's a console game, and those are generally more optimized for what they are on. And also, it really, like, that's all... The only thing that's really all that impressive about the visuals is, like, all the physics-based particles. But even then, there's games that are older than this that still pull stuff like this off. It's similar, but of course don't have the same kind of style. Yeah, see, the green guys, they run away from you, so you're going to want to actually corner them. Blue dudes, the blue circles, they seem to swarm you. Yeah, okay, that's kind of how it works. But as it stands, I'm not sure if... you know, I actually kind of wonder if I should ever go back to Beat Hazard. The thing is, that game never really actually made things in sync with the music. The concept of having things synchronized with music is kind of weird to me, because it's like, okay, do they come in at the right time? You know what game did it really well, but it kind of doesn't count because it was all, you know, pre-made, like hand-done instead of procedurally generated? The Bit Trip games, right? I mean, yeah, but no shit, those games have all of their levels built by hand for every single music track, right? In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if... No, I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if... they first maybe built the level, then wrote the music around it? No, that's not how it works. Honestly, I imagine the process going hand in hand. Because, like, you know, music is simple. It's just you pick a key, and it's like, well, basically anything you play in that key will sound consonant within the key. That's not really how it works, but... You can tell that they basically just mapped a bunch of, like, okay, so when you hit this, it's just going to play a bunch of notes in C, or it's just going to play pentatonic. So I imagine they just have particular elements of the game mapped to certain scales, so no matter what happens, it's going to sound good. Right? Even if they don't necessarily have to plan in advance the exact intervals and how things are going to go. I don't know. I haven't looked inside the mind of the guy who made those games. But it has to follow some kind of logic like that. Anyway, let's go ahead and... Achievements? Oh. Yeah. My actual Xbox 360 over here with a mouse plugged into it. Anyway, let's go into the retro mode. Check that out. So basically, here we just don't have a moving camera, and it's a lot smaller. You know what I realized? This is exponentially difficult. Exponentially more difficult. You know why? It's because your eyes are just completely overwhelmed with just shit on the screen constantly. Because with the normal mode, the evolved mode as they call it, you have your camera's constantly moving around and it's shifting your focus to different things. Here, I can see everything in front of me and I have to basically just kind of narrow my eyes and only focus on that one particular part of the screen that's relevant to me. And so I feel like there's so much more stuff for me to worry about. And I genuinely have no clue how I'm supposed to really keep track of everything. The thing about these kind of games, they're kind of like shoot 'em ups, side-scrolling shoot 'em ups, in the sense that you really have to. You cannot rely on reflexes. They are worthless. Reflexes do not get you anywhere here, because no one has the reflexes to avoid this kind of shit happening in real time. You have to memorize patterns and behavioral patterns of enemies. So you see green enemy, instantly you think, okay, fuck, run away. Right? You're not necessarily reacting to stuff in time. You're just sort of predicting. You're sort of predicting how they're going to behave. You see? So you just know, based on their design, based on their color palette, you remember their movement patterns. Now, does that mean that I can do that? Well, maybe if I actually dedicated a significant amount of time to learn these things, because as you can see, it's not even that complicated. There's only like 4 enemy types. Fuck! There's only like 4 enemy types, and yet that's enough to absolutely destroy you, right? When they fill the entire screen with them, and it seems that your craft isn't actually fast enough to run away, which I guess incentivizes strafing and shooting backwards, as in... You know, doing something like that, like this, exactly, where I'm moving away from the enemy while shooting at it. It's like Serious Wait, this is Smash TV. I've actually never played Smash TV. I love Serious Sam. I probably should play Smash TV, despite the fact that I've seen Smash TV. It doesn't look like something I really want to play. I mean, Serious Sam really benefits from its scale and spectacle, the way it looks, the way it sounds, the way it plays. And I don't really know if something that's more stripped down like that, I mean, it's still cool, but oh, look at the way it sucks in all the particles. It's just all so pretty. And I don't ever feel like I know what I'm doing. Exactly. Wait a second, what is that? Is that a bullet that just... Holy shit, is that an engine glitch? Like one of the bullets just got like... Because obviously it's a rigid body, so it just kind of got stuck there. I can't assume that this game came out like 10 years before Godot was even fucking developed. Who am I kidding? Like pretending that I know how they made this game. Well, I don't know, maybe it was made in assembly. No, it probably wasn't. But regardless of that though, yeah, so... I mean, it's fun. It's addicting, but it's also not. Like, I can't see myself... Kind of like, remember when I did that Vivid Noise on Pac-Man Championship Edition DX? Yeah, I can't really see myself getting addicted to this kind of game. Primarily because, well, for one, constant failure makes me feel very discouraged. And I get that that's the whole point. This game is intentionally designed to fail you a lot, and that's good. That's what you're supposed to do. It's just that I don't feel like there's any amount of... any amount that I can do about getting better, if that makes sense. I'm not going to say there's no skill involved, because obviously there is. What I mean is, I don't believe that under any circumstance I will be able to acquire the amount of skill necessary to not die in like 10 seconds in this game. I mean, there is no ending, so I can't say to beat the game, because there is no beat the game. That's the thing, these games are endless. And you know, who would have thought in a million years that like the concept of like an endless type game, like an endless runner, for example, would become so successful on mobile? Actually, no. Come and think of it, that's been the formula behind every arcade game ever made since the 70s. I mean, they're not endless. They technically have an end, but that's more like a technological limitation. It's like they would just run out of something, and it would cause like a glitch or like a crash or something, you know? But it's like no one would really get to that point because they would always die before that. Yeah, we're gonna go back to the normal mode after I die one more time, because this is like... It's not as visually interesting, can you tell? I'm glad they included this. Maybe this is what the game was initially like in Project Gotham Racing 1 or 2. Again, I'm not sure. I've actually never played those games. I probably should. I mean, I think I have the means to do it, so... Despite them not being on PC, but you know. Oh, fuck, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just turn around and... I should probably be using the... I should probably be using the bombs. Whoa, now it feels all modern and stuff, even though it's already kind of modern, but it's also not. Like, that's the fucking paradox of time, where it's like, this is 20 years old, but it looks like the future. And not in like a corny kind of like, oh, the future in your hands. The future things for today's price or some bullshit like that. No, it just looks cool. Just neon particles, it runs super smooth. There's really nothing that dates it really badly. Even the music still sounds kind of cool. It sounds a little crunchy here. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm not sure what like audio APIs or whatever I can possibly switch between, but it doesn't really matter to me that much because it's like the only game that has this issue. Most games don't. You know, I just realized, yes, because I'm using Witchcraft to play this game, I could just do this. Yeah, I can do that. I'm not going to do it, though, even though my graphics card thanks me every time I do. But my CPU doesn't, funnily enough. Okay, so basically in Xenia, whenever you decrease the game speed, your GPU is like, hell yeah. But your CPU, for whatever reason, it makes the game more computationally demanding to have it run slower. I'm sure there's some technical reason as to why that happens. But it's just weird. It's like, so the game's running slower and makes your CPU work harder. Is the game intentionally under... Is it throttling your CPU? Is it forcing it to put more effort in to force the game to run slower? Like, is it unoptimizing itself? I'm not sure. Like when I do this, it's like my GPU will go down, but my CPU will go up. That's really odd. I don't know. But I'm not going to do that, of course. It's just, okay, so I think we should call it a... Let's wrap it up for now, because this is an endless kind of game. We can just play this forever. So, really great spectacle. It's a really interesting little piece of just trivia, that like how this game started and the kind of... And it's not even a trend, because again, not that many games that are a smaller part of a bigger game end up becoming like a full-fledged thing. Usually it's the other way around. They'll take a game that was like a classic from like a previous era, and then because it's so small and easy to, you know, get to fit in a different game, they just kind of make it like a little arcade machine or something. You know, like what was it? Pac-Man World 2 lets you play like some Pac-Man games and stuff, or Shenmue, I think, lets you play a bunch of classic Sega arcade games, and I'm sure that, I think the Yakuza games do the same thing, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. So anyway, this has been focused on BD video series, where I spend 20 or so minutes playing a game just like this one. yeah, Geometry Wars Retro Revolve. This has been the game. I mean, I'm fucking dead. Okay, so this has been Geometry Wars Retro Revolved 2005, Xbox 360.